when you go back through to read Genesis. Here's the family tree. That will help you understand who's who, because everybody knows everybody's secrets in this family, and you need to know them too. We have this nation. We left them, 70 people in Egypt. When we opened the Bible in Exodus, if you turn the page to Exodus chapter 1, we have 2.5 million descendants. So if we take a family photo now, all of those families, it's been 400 years, and over 400 years, all of the brothers' descendants have become 2.5 million. Now we have a baby nation, but they're living in Egypt, and that wasn't the land where God had told them that he was going to give to Abraham. So he's going to take them back into the land. Now remember when he plants Abraham's seed in the land, and the little boink springs up? If you had a tree you plant in your yard, and there's a blight, a disease, comes through your area, and it targets that particular tree, what do you do to your tree? You do everything to protect that tree from the blight coming in. Now, what has happened? Remember Judah? Who did he marry? He married a Canaanite woman. And remember the town with the prince in it? We want your people and our people to be one big group, one big happy family. One of the reasons why God took his little tree down to Egypt was to protect it from the influence of the Canaan nation. Do you see that? Because the Egyptians did not want to have anything to do with Abraham's family. At the beginning, before the slavery, they became slaves of the Egyptians by the end. But at the beginning even, the Egyptians thought they were at the bottom. They were shepherds. We don't like shepherds. Stay away from them. They didn't want to intermarry. They are separate in Egypt, and that's where they really get to grow and become a nation. So now, if you have a healthy tree, now what God is going to do is uproot it from Egypt and take it and plant it back into the land to be what kind of nation? A righteous nation. We have a righteous man that it was founded on, Abraham. And Abraham trusted God, and it has everything in the soil that was supposed to make it work. And the family just does not work. So the question comes, how is God going to make this messed up family into this holy people of God that's going to be a blessing to all these other people around? I mean, they've got problems. They need some help. He takes them into the wilderness. But here's the answer. God makes sure that his people, catch this, know what he expects. He's giving them his laws. This is what the other nations have turned away from ages past. Even though they had the knowledge when they came off the ark, they have rejected it and turned away from it, and they don't have it anymore. They don't have the knowledge of God's ways. So what God is going to give his people from Abraham's family, he is going to make sure that his ways, everybody knows it. And this is what he does. First of all, he redeems the firstborn son with the blood of the lamb at Passover, because their sin is the problem and they have to get right with God. By taking the firstborns, he's not only taken the leadership. Do you see that? The firstborn sons would have the lead in the families. But what else is God impacting? What else does the firstborn get? Double portion. So what is God influencing? The people with the money. Do you see that? Those are mine, and they are to lead their families in my ways. And it's going to affect how they spend their money. And all these laws that are in the book of Exodus, the book of Leviticus, it talks about how to treat the poor, or how to treat the widows, or how to treat the orphans, or how to treat God wants a good place for people to live. To have a good place, you have to have good people. So he's giving them all this knowledge. Well, he does something more. He writes it down at Mount Sinai. Now think, how is that going to help them? They could just tell it from generation to generation like they had, but how does writing it down help the future generations? It makes it standard for everyone. It's not going to change after 100 years. It's not going to change after 200 years. It's not going to change. You see, he is making sure the future generations know this is how it is to live as my holy people. This is what I want from you. Then he centralizes, this is Exodus chapter, I guess it's about chapter 26 through the end. Chapter 40 is all about the tabernacle. And this is going to be the movable tent where God dwells. Since the Garden of Eden, we have not had God limiting himself to a location on earth. I mean, the whole universe can't contain God, right? How can God be limited to a place on earth? God says, I will limit myself to this little tent because that is where my people are, and I will be right with you, so you will not forget. So he centralizes his dwelling place, and it gives access to all the tribes. And then he devotes all the Levites to knowing his commands and to teaching them throughout the tribes. This is what I want you to write on the Levi envelope. This, by the way, is the tribe where Moses and Aaron are from. So you should have Levi, slaughtered men in a city, written on that envelope, and then put Moses and Aaron. Those are descendants. Now the Levites are anyone who's from this tribe of Levites, anyone who's descended from that son of Levi. But the priesthood, circle the name Aaron, he gets the priesthood. Only people from Aaron's family are allowed to serve as priests in God's tabernacle. Aaron did not choose that position. And in fact, if you're reading through the book of Numbers, there is someone from the tribe of Reuben and then some other Levites, and they come and they say, how come you guys are hogging the leadership? Oh, that's my paraphrase. All of us are holy. We're all God's people. We should all have equal access to the tabernacle. And there's this big rebellion against Moses and against Aaron. And God has all the leaders bring their rods, which was their symbol of leadership, and Aaron's rod buds. And it says, only Aaron's descendants have the priesthood. I chose Aaron. But all the other people in the tribe of Levi, they're set apart as helpers. Now, they can't officiate in the tabernacle itself, but someone has to carry all that equipment. Guess who gets to carry it? The Levites. They're the ones that get to transport the things and to help. But the Levites were also to know, because they were so close to the priesthood, the things of the tabernacle and where God's presence was, they were to know God's laws. And then if you open up your envelope of Levi, you should have Levites and Levites and Levites. The Levites are going to be able to be around the tabernacle. That's where they're going to encamp in the wilderness. But when they get into the land, and all the tribes are going to get their land. This is our inheritance for our tribe. The Levites aren't going to get one. They're not going to have a separate area. You know what's going to happen to them? I want you to rip the envelope. They're not going to get an inheritance. They are going to be scattered throughout all the tribes. And do you remember what Jacob said in his final will? Simeon and Levi are going to be scattered throughout all the tribes. They're not going to have their own big allotment. They're going to be in different cities all throughout where the tribes are going to be located, just with their little cities. And why is God having the Levites all throughout the land? Because they know. Do you see how committed he is? He takes the firstborn, and they're supposed to teach it to their families. But now he takes the whole tribe of Levi and devotes them. This is your job, is to know my laws. And you're my servants to teach my laws to everybody throughout the tribes. He is so committed that his people know his ways. In the arrangement, all the little tribes, and I'm not going to have you take out your pieces yet, but you can go back and take out the little tribes, and it tells in the book of Numbers how they're aligned around that tabernacle. The first layer is all the Levites. The priests and the Levites. But then when you have the other 12, now wait a minute, I thought Jacob only had 12 sons. How come we now have 12 tribes? Because Joseph has 2. So the Levites are taken out. So how many do we have now? We still have 12, and the Levites are scattered. On the east side of the tabernacle, you have Judah. Everybody's going to have to come through Judah to get to the tabernacle. By the way, these 3 big envelopes, these are your power envelopes, your power tribes, because Levi, the tribe of Levi now has the religious power because of Aaron. That's the religious power. But the political power is going to come from, where's the scepter going to come from? Judah. Now, in the arrangement, if Judah's on the east, what's the old sibling rivalry that we have? Judah and Joseph. Where do you think Joseph's tribes are going to be located? North, west, or south? You know, I don't think there's any huge, big significance, but I did think it was interesting. They're located on the backside. So when they traveled, you had Judah in front of the tabernacle, and you had Joseph's tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. And I thought it was interesting. It included little Benjamin. There's 3 tribes on each side, by the way. Okay, so little Benjamin is included in there, which makes sense because Benjamin is Joseph's. Anyway, there's just kind of some tribal affinities there. That's all I'm saying. So when they traveled, Judah's in the front and Joseph's in the back. Do you see the family stuff coming out now? I'm about to give you a lot of details. I want us to see just one point.